everyone, and welcome to the Next Best Picture podcast. I am Matt Neglia, the owner, editor in chief of nextbestpicture.com, and I'm being joined right now by a very special guest. Post Oscars, the Oscar winner for Best Picture this year, shared alongside Sean Baker, Samantha Kwan, Alex Coco, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. It's very exciting for me to be on this podcast because I'm a very avid listener. So it's really exciting.
Isn't it funny how that's how pretty much we met? Like you came up and you said, "Oh,
Yep.
I'm a big fan," and I think it was at LAFCA. It was at the Los
Hmm.
Angeles Film Critics, and it's crazy how you and I connected so late into the season, but
Yeah.
we were coming up on that stage where all the very, very big shows, the big televised
Hmm.
awards and the guilds were starting to chime in. And you said like, "Hey, how are we looking? Like, how, you're the expert on these things. What do our chances look like?"
That's right. I know. And then we were on the eve of, where everything changed for us as well, for Anora, in the race. So um, yeah, it was quite the time to be introduced. So
Yeah, absolutely. I remember giving you some false sense of confidence, like saying, "Oh, things are going to be fine. You guys
yeah.
got this all locked up." You guys went on this like wild roller coaster where some nights you won, some nights you didn't, and
Hmm.
some nights you got something, but not the big prize. So, what was it like just heading into Oscar night, knowing, okay, we've won a few things here and there. Like, what is it like for you with this expectation of, okay, we might win, but who knows?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it had been such a wild ride, as you said. So for us, it was just, literally, I was prepared for any scenario. I was prepared for us to, win nothing, win some things, or win everything. So, because, yeah, I mean, and then of course, everybody kept talking about it would repeat itself like at the Critics' Choice, where we only won Best Picture and that was it, or Best Film and that was it. So I was sort of like open to that scenario too. So if we started losing early, I would be, I was sort of like, well, maybe that scenario is coming true. Like I didn't feel like we would be out of it per se. Um, but once, obviously once Sean won editing, it seemed like everything was going our way. So and that was early enough in the night that then I kind of just settled in, and just tried to enjoy the show as much as possible. Um, Still, obviously, preparing for potential heartbreak, but uh, but feeling confident all the same.
Now, had you guys not won as big as you all did, like let's say something else had won Best Picture. I mean, for a small independent film such as this to just be at the dance in general, there still has to be this humble feeling of, hey, we're just happy to be here, right?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, going into this whole thing, that's just sort of, you know, to be said we might get nominated and we might have some, good chances at some wins, early on in the process, that was just so um didn't feel possible. And it felt if we got there, then it would be yeah, it would be the win in itself. But once, people like yourself and other pundits start talking about your chances and that they're really good, you start to, almost kind of believe it a little bit. So then it was sort of like, okay, well, if we have a chance here, then, you know, it's great to be here. But now, your brain starts to shift to, what that would feel like to win. So I don't know. For me, I just tried to just maintain like a sense of, neutrality as much as I could, just because, it's too hard. It's so out of your hands. I mean, of course, you know, uh, we I don't know, we of course we feel involved in a way, but it's really the film has to just stand for itself. So ultimately, we just hope that people are connected to it, and they did. So
But that's the other thing too, is that, you've been now a part of a couple of projects where very, very few people see them. This is actually one of the rare ones where a lot of people saw it. And because of its awards run, even more people saw it. And now that it's a Best Picture winner, it's part of a legacy of films now that 50 years, 100 years from now, if the planet is still going, there will be some young cinephile who will make it their quest to watch every Best Picture winner. And Anora
mm.
will be amongst that group. So, that must be a very gratifying feeling. Like I said, especially in the independent space, to have a film with that far of a reach.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, and that's the I think that's what a lot of these things are for. At least that's how we see them. Just getting people to see the movie. Having like this, huge box office bump. I think we were plus 595%, the weekend after at the box office. We won. And that's like what we want, and that, it's not, monetarily, of course, there's the benefit of, your film doing well and these, companies wanting to make more of them. But then also, every dollar is somebody who saw the film. So, and that's really gratifying, exciting, especially when we're making movies like this that are very specific, that are very personal and auteur-driven, movies that are, you know, yeah, we're not gunning for these sorts of things. So, we're just hoping we're not gunning for the widest audiences, So to reach a wide audience is, yeah, it's been really magical. Of course, then you start to people start to talk about the film online and in all sorts of ways once it wins and whatnot. So then there's also that side of it too. It's but look, if people are talking about the movie, I'm happy. So
Yeah. I was actually going to ask you about that because this happens every year. Now, I don't care if you're like the most well-regarded film on the planet. Like even Parasite, I remember had some people trying to say something about it after it won Best Picture. So in the aftermath of all of that, yeah, people are now all of a sudden, even if they haven't seen the movie, people have an opinion on it. It just seems like,
yeah,
And so everybody just wants to be part of the cultural conversation. Everyone has to say something about Anora. And I personally think it's all just a lot of noise, but as you're saying, you think, hey, you know what, good or bad, at least people are talking and we know what we made and we stand by it, basically. Am I right?
yeah, no, totally. I mean, it's just interesting to be like in the cultural, conversation, where people are reading about the movie and as broadly as possible, or writing about the movie online as broadly as possible. Yeah, it's nice, because sometimes you can make these films, I have before, and they have a small audience, and then they sort of, the real ones know, the people who are, into filmmaking and into, independent films and in the letterbox community, they, definitely continue to talk about the movie, but it stays in a very small community. So it's exciting to branch out into other communities and have people react to the film and whatnot. Um, yeah, and look, like we thought this movie would be way more divisive than it ended up being. So
Mm,
it's interesting that we're starting to get some of that divide now that the film has been successful. Of course, as to your point, I think a lot of it comes from, just winning. It just seemed there was a meme that I saw that was like, you know, um, Anora was like every cinephile's favorite film before it won, and then after it was like, it's okay, it's not that good. It's just like it seems like it's so funny how that discourse shifts like that. It's very
yeah.
fascinating.
So taking it back a little bit for you, humble beginnings, you basically ask Sean for a job. Doesn't matter what it is. Run and get coffee, scheduling, doesn't matter. You want to work with this guy. And this is before he had had big success with Tangerine, Florida Project. I mean, you've been along for the ride through this meteoric rise that has culminated in this big moment, not just for him, but also for you. So
Mhm.
when you think back to like where you were when this first started to reaching literally what is considered the pinnacle of this industry, or at least what some people would consider, like, do you feel like for it's not like your career is peaked per se, but like what tell me about that arc, just tell me about like that journey to go literally from, just trying to make it in this business to at the top of the business.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us, myself, Sean and Samantha, we all kind of feel like those same filmmakers who, when we worked together the first time on a feature, it was the Florida Project. And, Sam was, helping with the acting for the first time actors and for the kids. She was an associate producer on that one. I was Sean's assistant. And we were just making it happen, like it just that was the name of the game, was just try to make this movie the best thing it can be and sort of like, support Sean as much as possible. Even sometimes his, production tactics are a little bit more unconventional. Just from where he came from, making films, basically by himself or with just the smallest team possible. He takes a lot of the same, working methods into the bigger budgets. He's a multi hyphenate, so he's doing so many things. So So yeah, so I don't know. I'm just proud of Sean. I mean, when I first saw Tangerine, I was just so blown away by the film, and then he did a Q&A, and just hearing him talk about the movie. Me as a film school student at the time, it was like everything that I wanted in the experience of making a movie. So that's why I approached him after, just to tell him, like you said, I'll do whatever. I just want to be a part of this in some way, in some meaningful way, and I wasn't angling at anything. I just wanted to be a part of the experience. So becoming a producer and then getting to this point where we're winning Best Picture, that was the furthest thing from my mind. It was just like, being a part of a great project, a great movie was the goal. And I think that's kind of how we've done it on each of these films. It's just every film's a little bit different. The budgets have been different. They've been up, they've been down, they've been back up. So it's like, it's not like we're, slowly ascending and getting bigger budgets, or we're staying at a consistent, level. It's so varied. So it really kind of changes your approach to each movie. So I'm just glad that people are recognizing Sean and seeing him as the filmmaker that I always knew he was. That's like really, truly like, um, that's been, for him to win the DGA that night. I just, it was like it was like emotional for me. I just, for him to be recognized, and then obviously win director and have Tarantino give him the Oscar. It was just like, what a journey he's had, making this tiniest little movies on prosumer cameras or iPhones to now, shooting on 35 and being, on the biggest stage. It's like there really isn't anybody, I don't think, has had that same trajectory, and he stayed true to, stuck to his guns all the way. So,
Yeah, I told him that exactly when he won DGA, and I told him that again at the Oscars, like 30 something or 30 plus years, and he's never compromised, and he's always done
no.
things his way, and it is really, really rare to see that get recognized like this in by this industry. I think most people I talk to want to find a film that blends art and commerce in the best way possible, something like an Oppenheimer, where it's like, yes, you made a film that appeals to cinephiles, but it also made almost $1 billion. So it's like one of those things where I feel like most of the time that's what people want to reward, but recognizing independent films and seeing the success that they had this year specifically, and having
Mhm.
Sean up on that stage to advocate for not just the independent scene, but also for independent movie theaters and how we have to support our local art houses. They really have taken such a hit in recent years. I feel like all of this was in conversation with each other, not just with
Mhm.
your film, but then also with Brady's film and a few others this entire season. Like you guys all felt like, I was talking to Ramel Ross about the same thing. It felt like this was like a collection of filmmakers who have worked in this space and are all gunning for the same goal, which is to preserve movie theaters and grant further opportunities for those that work in the independent space.
Yeah, it's just like a new. It's not new. Sorry, it's just. Well, I think it's a new recognition, in a way, by the Academy, just to have these collection of filmmakers. I mean, even like, you know, spent some time with Coralie, directed The Substance, and she was just like, this is amazing. Like cinema is being recognized. And for us to have been on this journey together, starting with Cannes and then now here, it's like, there's been a few films that came from that festival. And I think a lot of the pundits now are now, you guys are talking about how, oh, maybe Cannes is the new sort of like launch pad for a lot of these movies that go the distance like this. But that's exciting, like that's really great. To have, so it's just going to launch like a new generation and, even better filmmakers, to hopefully inspire like the next wave of young filmmakers to see something like The Substance or Brutalist or some of these movies that really stretch the limit of what a movie can be. As a film student, when I was young, like seeing Tangerine, those are the movies that would make me want to make movies and get in this business and really carry that torch. So it's exciting. It's really exciting, and again to like have the Academy and to have like one of the biggest, live events to recognize those movies. It's just now there's kids that night who watched it who didn't really know what these movies were and looked them up or now are watching them and maybe they're asking their parents for a camera or something. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, they have their iPhones these days, but you know what I mean? It's cool. It's really cool. Yeah.
So when you get that Best Picture Oscar and you've gone through this very long journey, like we said before, that started off at Cannes, winning the Palme d'Or, and then like the press tour and everything else from there. Is there a part of you that then goes, you know what? I think I want to do something different by Sam, by Sean. Like it's not going to get any bigger than this or better than this. Or is it, hey, that was great. Not saying we have to do it again, but let's just keep
Mm.
working together.
Yeah, I mean, we're always gonna, work together on these movies, the three of us. It's kind of like a core team. We really found a groove, starting with, like I said, back on Florida and even working on a couple projects just before that, and then all the way through. So yeah, we'll be, we're already, I'm actually in like, I don't know, 5 days or something. I'll be going on a trip with Sean and Sam to a certain city where we're hoping to probably set the next film and start to do research and talk to people and start the earliest prep. It's still a ways away, but yeah, we're right back on the road trying to make the next film. So I'll always make space to do Sean's movies. But there's a couple of projects and some other filmmakers that I've been speaking to, and making their next movies. So I'm really excited about that as well. I'm excited to expand a little bit. And I'd made a couple films in between Red Rocket and Anora, and I think that really helped me too as a producer. Come up with new ways to approach filmmaking for Sean. Because he is such a specific filmmaker in the way he likes to approach production. So, like I was mentioning before, um, so it's like I like to kind of do other things so that I can like be a better architect for him in the production plan.
Smart.
Yeah, so maybe doing a film that's closer to a budget that we're going to do on the next one. That just helps, and then also meeting other filmmakers and crew that we could bring on to this movie. It's just, I keep a list, and I keep notes, just in my head of all these great people and all these great ways to approach it. So better support him ultimately.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I'm supporting those films, to the max as well. It's just, you know, there's also this great, a part of it that's like, okay, awesome. Now I learned this great thing from this other filmmaker. Now I can take this into Sean's next movie.
Yeah. I was talking with Brady Corbet about like how on his next film, it's actually been for him like the easiest, smoothest pre-production like he's ever had because mostly from the success of this film that
Hmm.
he had this year. Have you also been similarly like kind of experiencing that a little bit with setting up the next one where it just seems like things are a little bit easier because of the success of Anora?
Yeah, things are definitely easier. I think what's hard is finding, great projects,
Hmm.
that's the hardest part of it all. But and people want to make great projects ultimately. They financiers and companies and whatnot. So that's the thing. So to get that, to find that marriage, is the key. But once you have those two elements, yeah, for sure. Things are just going to be that much easier going forward. And for Sean, obviously, Sean is going to just keep writing, his own work. So for him, it's really just when he wants to go. And I feel like we'll have a lot of suitors for that next film. But uh, but yeah, which is great because it is just going to allow him to, do what he wants to do and deliver on his vision, on even like even more, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
and that's what we're here to do. And we've really like the reason why these budgets have been low is because Sean wants, he wants a lot when he does these films. Our casting is totally his own, and his decision and the subject matter and all these things. So a lot of times it's just like how much money could we get for a film that isn't, getting a list of actors from an agency and finding out their value and then deciding the budget based off of like who we can get and whatnot. It's really truly Sean's coming in with this is the actor, this is the story, how much money are we able to spend? And hopefully on the next one we can do, scale it up even a little bit more, and just have it, yeah, just be like, Sean Baker's, vision on steroids, which is exciting.
Well, because of the success of this film and because of Sean just also having success in this space, even before Anora, I think everybody looked up to Sean as like this beacon of light in the independent space and the work that you guys were all doing together. I'm curious to know when you have up and coming filmmakers who are struggling in this independent space, you guys have found success. But even before that, like, well, what advice do you give to up and coming filmmakers, especially even now? Because it's dire out there and it's really tough to get any kind of financing and have things done your way, the way that, like you said, Sean has it done.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's like, Sean is just getting what he can, whatever he can get. He got, you know, I don't know what ended up being $100,000 or something from the Duplass brothers to make Tangerine, and that's about all he could get to make a movie on two iPhones with two first-time actors, on the streets. And so it's just and he just did it. He just was like, okay, if that's what I have, then I'll figure out, what resources, I need and what I am going to have access to make this movie. So um, that's kind of like the name of the game, is just to like I do work with some filmmakers, or I've consulted on some films with some filmmakers and given some advice, and they'll bring me budgets that are, very big budgets for their first film. And I'm just like, yeah, maybe you can get that money, but odds are not. So, whether it's this project itself and you just figure out a way to do it resourcefully at a smaller number, or you write something else. So that's just kind of the name of the game. But I think you get better as a filmmaker by doing that. I
Hmm.
think a lot of times in this business, it's so strange. You like make a feature debut, and if it's not good, then it's like, oh, okay, I guess, that I don't know, maybe you'll make another one, maybe you won't. Didn't really sell. It's going to be an uphill battle now. But there's like no other craft or no other thing that we do, that you do it once, and if it's not, past lives, with how Celine was able just to, make her first movie and have all that success. If it's not something crazy like that, then you might not get another shot. So for Sean, it's he's an example of just like making so many movies, learning how to make films, getting better every single time, culminating in everything that he's doing now. So in some ways, it's like it's really great to be able to work at those small scales, because then you're learning how to be resourceful. You're learning how to, like Sean does, edit, write, direct, cast. You're learning how to do all these things so that and then you're learning how you want to approach production, because there's certain ways to approach making a film, but there's also so many ways to skin a cat. And a lot of reasons why I'm sort of like trying to architect the production plan in a way that's like different is because Sean makes movies a little bit different because he's made so many movies so many ways, and in a certain way in many ways. Um, and he knows how to do that, and I think it results in something more interesting as well. So I don't know, I think it's just try to make whatever you can with whatever you can get, and then yeah, and maybe you're not trying to be a writer director, maybe you're trying to do something else, but just I when I met Sean, I was constantly going up to filmmakers at screenings in LA, Q&As while I was in film school, and trying to just meet great filmmakers, and just be a part of something. Um, so yeah, community is also really important, and just trying to be a part of great work, and the amount you'll learn, and you'll get access to, and just be genuine, if like you really love the movie or like a filmmaker, then like you'll probably do well when you get into that environment.
Yeah.
So go up to the people that you really truly admire, no matter what. Like me going up to Sean and being like, I want to make your next movie after watching a film that he made for $100,000 on the street. My parents were definitely like, okay, like, how are you gonna make money? But I was just like, I don't know, but this is what I want to do, so I'm just gonna do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot about like as you said, Celine Song, she got like the keys to the kingdom because of the success of Past Lives, but there are so many other independent filmmakers out there where we don't hear about their next project sometimes for 6, 7 years or whatever it could be sometimes. And like I think about like how Tamara Jenkins has not made a feature film since Private Life back in
Mm.
2018.
Wow.
I think about this all the time. But like
Hmm.
there's a lot of people out there who because the business is so tough and so demanding from a financial standpoint. It's very, very averse to risk. A lot of people are like struggling to get these projects off the ground. It's not like the scripts are not written. Like the scripts are
Hmm.
out there and the
Hmm.
ideas are out there. Cord Jefferson made that passionate speech when he won his Oscar 2 years
He did.
ago.
Hmm.
And I don't know where the news is about Cord Jefferson's next film right now, you know? So it's like one of those things where it seems like sometimes, like in the moment, it can be gratifying to get this level of recognition, but then the next morning, after all of this is over and you've won your gold statue, everyone just kind of carries on with life and forgets about the message that was said the night before. So it's like for
Hmm.
you carrying this torch now and being a spokesperson for this independent space along with Sean and Samantha, like how do we not just say, "Oh, that was really nice for them. What a great night for independent cinema. Back to business." Like how do we avoid doing that?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And just to also speak, obviously people they have their own, journey, and maybe they're doing things that we're not seeing, if in gaps and stuff,
True.
like they're taking it. But at the same time, just to make a point really quickly is when we did after Florida Project, we were supposed to do this other film, um and it was going to be a lot bigger. It was going to, pretty big scale, just in terms of budget and Sean's ambition for the movie following Florida, but then COVID made it so that we couldn't make that movie.
Yeah.
Um, so we pivoted to Red Rocket because Sean was like, "Well, I have this other idea, and I can write it smaller." And our financier, Glenn Basner, was going to do that previous film, was like, "Well, I'll give you $1 million to make something," because I know you guys are raring to go. It's COVID. This is about all I can do. So we were like, great, let's do it. We have $1 million. So I think like for some filmmakers, it's like no matter the success, that's why I think it's to have that independent spirit, that mentality to be like, okay, I just made a movie for $10 million and it did really well, and did pretty well, moderately well, whatever. Now I want to scale up, and now I need, I have another script or another idea, and it's $20 million and whatever. Oh, but it's hard to get the budget, because it's a lot. Now we have to attach cast. Like some of the subject matter is a little tricky, so I'm trying to do notes, like whatever, But maybe some of those filmmakers just turn around and be like, go to their financier or company they work with, be like, well, you know, I got this other idea. Like, how much would you give me? Like, oh, you give me a couple $1 million to make it? Sure, let's just go make it in the meantime. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of like, I feel like I kind of would love that actually, as like to your point, if people just started kind of not always trying to go up in budget, but being willing to just drop down in budget and make something,
Hmm.
because maybe they're hitting a wall with another project that's maybe, bigger or something.
Sure.
Because that's, and then we're going to get more of these independent films and more of these, like, these movies that are they're different and cut against the grain and whatnot, with these great artists. So yeah, so I mean, now I'm trying to like lead back to your original question here, but it's yeah, I guess I think we just have to keep pounding the pavement and just really like uh making our voices heard, about this message, about
Yeah.
making these movies and supporting these films too. I think the big thing is like you vote with your dollar, right? They always say, so
Right.
I hope that people start going to these movies because if I mean, look, like Substance made a lot of money, like Brutalist did very well, like Anora did very well. Like these are, and if Substance was, like, I mean, it's just a great vision, but maybe not independent film, by definition, but, they definitely made it in a similar way. I just
Yeah.
think that like, if you go and you see these movies, that are, in these independents, and you pay your dollars and you see it in a theater, hopefully, then these companies, it's just a signal. They're like, okay, these work. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
these movies can make money, so we should. And that's why people. The reason why money's scarce right now is because people don't know how to make money. So if these films start to do really well, then we're going to make more of them, or the industry is going to make more of them. Um, so I think it's just like engaging,
Yeah.
re-engaging with theaters, and we're so many years past, COVID now, and hopefully people are going to start returning to the theater because people are going to the movie theater for like 100 years, like to just stop all of a sudden because we had this. because of the pandemic, and then obviously people were at home. It seems like it just shifted everybody in such a dramatic way.
Yeah.
But I feel like people are now coming out of it. And Sean mentioning, I forget which speech. I think it was at the Oscars. He's saying like, bring your kids to the movie theaters and like introduce it to them early.
Yeah.
Like that will change people's brains again to be like, for kids to want to go to see the movie in the theater and making that a point and not just wanting to watch stuff at home. So it's important. It sounds like work in a way. I don't want it to be, I want it, but I just think we need to remind people of how like special it is to go see a movie on a big screen with good sound, with a collection of people. It really is an amazing experience, and I think some people have forgotten.
I agree because I hear all the time about like how, oh, we're never going to get back to 2019 levels again necessarily. And it's like, well, maybe not now, but I do think that year after year, we are making strides and things are moving in a positive direction, I feel, especially also considering too, yes, it was COVID, but it was also streaming habits. And
Hmm.
I do think that one of the things that's really hurting independent cinema right now is the mentality of, well, if I just wait it out, in some cases, 3 weeks, which is crazy, but true.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe on the longer tail end of things, 6 months or 9 months in the case of Sing Sing. I mean, like, I'll eventually be able to see it on streaming somewhere. And so
Hmm.
many people now have that mentality. So I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that per se, in the sense of, hey, if you've got like a lot of kids, got to pay for a lot of tickets, the concessions. I understand the financial side of it. I also understand not every film plays in every theater across the country everywhere. So
Hmm.
there's always going to be asterisks next to everything.
Yeah.
But if you had to like highlight for like in your own words, what is the thing that makes the cinema special? What would it be that you would say to incentivize people to go see something in a movie theater as opposed to wait for it to watch at home?
Yeah, I mean, really quick, anecdotally, just yeah, these theatrical windows are important, because
Hmm.
they've shrunk so much that people can have the mentality that you're saying, where they're like, oh, it's in theater, it's okay, I'll just watch it when it drops on a streaming service in a couple weeks or whatever, and so that's or maybe it drops simultaneously. I don't think they really do that anymore, but it's like, but that's like obviously, AMC and some of these theaters are trying to like reverse that and require that these windows have to be, 60 days again or whatever, so that people are like, well, I really want to see this movie. So instead of waiting, I'm just going to go see it because I'm not going to see it for a while if I don't go. So I think that's important to get people to not, just wait for streaming and whatnot. But yeah, no, what makes it an important thing, theatrical. I mean, we make these movies for the theatrical experience,
Hmm.
and just like I don't know, just going to a few of these festivals and coming in and popping in and seeing how Anora was playing. Every time it's just like being in that room with people just laughing and laughing collectively and like sharing, because sometimes in Nora, it's like, are you supposed to laugh? Like, is this, can you laugh? Or are you not supposed to laugh? Because sometimes it gets kind of serious, but it's still, there is comedy. And so it's a great mixture. But, just hearing people like sort of like, you know, um, I don't know, get behind a moment together through their laughter. And then also to hear the theater just like you can hear a pin drop when that last scene happens, like
Yeah.
such an amazing collective experience. You can really feel like every person in the theater in that moment, just because there's so much, again, there's so much noise and so much jubilation when you're watching the film and, people are laughing. And then all of a sudden it's like, you know, I don't know. It just feels like it's just, it's just a collective, just everybody coming together and just like sharing this moment.
I
And then
talked
into
to a
the
lot of
credits.
voters who
Yeah.
literally said to me that they loved Anora, they were going to vote for Anora, and it was because it was the movie that took them on the wildest roller coaster of emotions.
Hmm.
And I felt that too. It's part of the reason why I went and saw it, not just at Cannes, but then also Telluride, New York, and anywhere I could. I saw it multiple times because I wanted to feel that energy again with a
Hmm.
crowd. It was infectious. And to your point, when you would get to the credits, because it's so silent and people sometimes just sit in their chairs even and don't get up right away, it's so great then to listen to people as they're walking out of the theater and you can hear what they're saying about it. Like this created an experience that, while maybe compared to, I don't know, some giant blockbuster films might feel small by comparison, there's a very human element to
Hmm.
it that I think
Hmm.
resonated deeply with people. So
Yep.
I give you
No, it's
guys
so
a ton of
true.
credit for that.
Yeah, it's so true, and I mean, even like, The Substance has that roller coaster too, especially with
Yeah.
that last scene. And it's hard to go on these roller coasters. It's like no one would ever I mean, there's no one would ever go on a roller coaster and then like get off like, a quarter in and then get back on, like for like another little bit of it. And then, with people do that when they watch a movie at home. They watch 15 minutes or 30 minutes and then they get busy and they do something else and then they watch, I heard people watching The Brutalist like over 4 days and 5 days. And it's just like I saw the movie at Beyond Fest in the theater with everybody. Like the experience of seeing that movie from start to finish all the way through is like the way to watch it. Like
Yeah.
I think if people didn't vote for it because it took them 5 days to watch, it's like, yeah, of course. How could you have experienced the film if you watched it over 5 days? Like if you did the same thing with Anora, it would be like you're laughing and you're enjoying the film and there's all these exciting things happening and then you get the last moment. So then it's like kind of like whiplash or something, like but if you like kind of like turned it off like like because you got busy and then came back in and like all like the post divorce center stuff, if you kind of watched it from there, then it tonally kind of settles down a little bit. There's still comedy, but it would be sort of like you wouldn't feel that like that roller coaster ride if you then just experience the last part of the film at home and and not not all in one go. So that's the cool thing. And I think that like I mean that movie Burning, I remember seeing that in the theater and like there's such like it's
Oh
such a
God.
slow
Yeah.
burn. Yeah, it's such a slow burn and like there was a part I haven't seen it since it came out, but I do want to revisit it. But there's a part in the middle of the film where you're just sort of like, whoa, this is like the pacing is really slowed down and like it's almost like lulling you to sleep or sort of hypnotizing you a little bit. And then it like makes this turn, and it's like, that's like an artist is doing something, you know what I mean? Like, it's like a presentation, it's like, um, maybe he does want you to kind of like sort of get lulled to sleep a little bit. So then he can kind of like shift the film, in an instant like that, I don't know. There's just, yeah. So I think just like, sitting down and watching a movie from start to finish in a dark room with people and feeling like, I don't want to say it's like forced, but I feel like it's like, it's sort of like really, kind of forcing you to engage with the film only, and not have a million things going on, like like you do when you watch a film at home, so
Yeah.
theaters are important. Yeah.
Definitely are for sure. So it's the night after or the day after the Oscars. You wake up. What is going on? Like, what did you do the day after? You did you wake up in bed holding the statue? Like, you know,
I mean, I went to bed the morning after. So, like I think,
you had a late night.
yeah, I think like 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. I think I went to bed. So,
Wow.
yeah. So, and my parents were in town, which was very nice. So we got up and I had lunch, with them or whatever. So I was just very tired overall, but it was just sort of surreal. Yeah, we were enjoying it, but it's like back to life. I have a 5 month old, and my Oscar was sitting. We didn't really have anywhere to put it in this apartment, so it was sitting on the bedside table next to like a glass of water and a stack of baby books, and like it's just like it's not I don't know you know yeah it's definitely it was obviously amazing to get an avalanche of messages from people and hear from people, but definitely yeah just doesn't really feel like much has changed in so many ways, so
Yeah. But like we said, though, hopefully that there's greater opportunity, and on also making an easier path for Sean to get his next projects made. I want to believe that that will not only be the case with the next one, as you said earlier, but then also with others to come. Um, and then I would say too, when you look back on like this journey and you look back on like because I remember talking to I remember talking to Daniel Kwan about this when they won for Everything Everywhere All at Once, like how
yep.
this is. this is great. Like it's crazy. It's crazy to go on this kind of a run where
Hmm.
you win the Palme d'Or, you won the most critically acclaimed films of the year, you made back your money, your dog is in the background right now.
He's scratching himself.
Yeah. Hey, what's up? But like literally it's like every box gets checked off in terms of a pillar of success, right? How do you mentally like handle that? Because I can imagine for some people it would get to them mentally a little bit like, okay, now it's like, how do I top this with the next one?
Mm.
Or, you know, there's different ways to approach it, right? When that level of success hits you like that. So I'm just curious for you as you look forward now to the rest of your career, like, what is this going to mean for you, not just in terms of looking back on it, but then also to like what you learned from it that you can take with you?
Yeah, it'll be so interesting to look back on it because I don't think I really have good perspective on it yet.
Hmm.
It'd be so interesting. Even these movies, like you're so close to them, and then years later you watch it and you're like, whoa, we did that? That was crazy. Like, it's like I'm excited to also watch Anora in like 3 or 4 years. I did that not too long ago with Red Rocket, and I was like kind of like it felt like I was watching somebody else's movie, and I was impressed by what they did. It was very strange. But yeah, no, I mean, look, like I just want to go on amazing adventures with great artists and make great films. Like, so ultimately, it's like, I'm not looking to top this in any way. I just want to make something like that's as special as this movie, and it doesn't have to be accepted, necessarily in the same way, to be a special movie because. I don't know, all the films I've made, I think are special movies, regardless of, whether they've made, 48 million at the box office and they made $500,000 at the box office or less, you know what I mean? So, um, and all those movies I cherish. And I don't like think about memories of making the Sweet East and think less because, the movie didn't, reach the levels that Anora did. Like I still think about that movie so fondly, it's
Hmm.
like one of my cherished experiences, in my life, so yeah, it's really just about, making the next one. And I'm hoping that like this will help me as a producer gain trust from, even, from great artists to make great movies. That's kind
Yeah.
of like what I hope comes out of all of this. But it is a little spooky. It's a little scary, because we won the Palm. I had a kid the same week we released the film, and then I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan, despite being from Connecticut originally. I've been an Eagles fan since I was like 12. They won the Super Bowl in dramatic, fashion. They just blew out the Chiefs, and then we went and won the Oscar. So it was like kind of I was like, whoa, this is like too much good fortune all at once. This is like kind of scary. Like when the Eagles won, I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Now are we about to like totally blow up in this Oscar race? Because like when is the shoe gonna drop? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then to then sweep at the Oscars was like, I was like, what the? I don't understand. Anyway, this was a great year. I'm gonna file it away. Just being like, that was a great year, but hoping to have other good years. And again, like it's all about how you define, it, you know what I mean? So winning the Oscar again, or winning the Palm again, or seeing another Eagles Super Bowl, it's like, yeah, or having another kid, like those are all like things that I hope could happen. But making a really fucking special movie,
Yeah.
is like really what I'm hoping to do. Again, by my own definition, yeah, and then maybe the wife and I will have another kid at some point too, because that's been a great journey. But we'll see. Maybe I'll time that out with Sean's next one. So.
Well, I got to say, talking with you, you've definitely made me more optimistic for the future of independent filmmaking a bit more because it just seemed like every time I talk to folks, I'm always hearing doom and gloom responses. But like I said, I know from talking with you, Ramel, Brady, Corley, also like as you mentioned before, lots of people this whole season. It seems like this when you get this kind of attention, it can then hopefully make things easier. And if you keep your ambitions also at a certain level too, because like you said, if you aim too high, it could fall apart despite
Mhm.
what had come before. So it seems like you guys are on a great path for that. And obviously, I wish you nothing but continued success because I think that the films you guys make really touch something very human and are showcasing lives that are not necessarily portrayed on screen outside of like documentaries, it seems like all that often. So
Mhm.
I think that's super important. And at the end of it all, I mean, I just, having you get a chance to get to know you, Sean, everybody else that I mentioned earlier, you're just great people. I want to see good things
Yeah.
happen for good people. So,
Well, same with you. Honestly, it's I'm I'm honored to be on this podcast, and I'm honored to do this with you after this run and just getting to know each other. It's you know, I don't know. It's yeah. I think that's been the great thing about the awards race is like, for sure, there's winners and there's losers and everything in between. But um, there's just yeah, I just met so many amazing people, doing it. So I mean, that would be the benefit of doing it again. And I think like, what did I learn from this experience? I learned, a lot about like, whatever the precursors and how you kind of start to see how the award season shapes up and, predictions and whatnot. But more than that, so much more than that is just like meeting the, great artists and, you know, great, critics and people who are writing about this stuff and care about the movies so much, like that's the community that I want to be in. And I feel like we had that in this awards run.
yeah. And every year I always say to myself, oh man, that was so good. How can we possibly like top it the next year? And I was talking to John M. Chu. I was like, you're going to be back next year.
Oh yeah.
So many of these other folks are not going to be back for a couple of years. And if they're lucky, for some people, this will be the only time that they go
Hmm.
on this kind of a journey. So, you take it all in. And I think, to your point, whether it's an award season or if it's a production of a film, it's the experiences that you have with the people along the way, no matter what the end result is, that matters. And that is born out of people just being respectful and good to one another, and also rooting on for each other's success as much as your own. Because obviously we all want to win, but deep down, we're all just trying to lift each other up.
Yeah, and we were sitting behind Ed Berger at the Oscars, and every time we won something, he turned around and like gave us a hug or congratulations. Like I don't know, I was very nervous going in, like very stressed. Again, not knowing what was going to happen, but just you just don't know what to expect. And then as soon as I got in there and settled in and everything kind of started, the room just felt very warm and supportive of everybody. And everybody felt like they were there for each other. It's like at the end of this long, long, road that we've all been on. And we were kind of all ready for it to be done and just you know, to support the ones who, got to get up on that stage and the ones who didn't. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know,
Yeah,
it was like, it was a good experience. Yeah. So, um, yeah, I don't know. I can't say anything too. I mean, obviously, I can't say anything too negative about it. But, it's just it was a fairy tale for sure.
absolutely, it was for sure. So I do want to just say before we go, Anora will be available to stream on Hulu on March 17th. And it's also going to get this Criterion release April
Mm.
29th. I already have my copy ordered. I'm so excited. 4K
I would have sent
Blu-ray.
you one.
Oh, no, it's all good. Hey, I appreciate that, but I was going to get it anyway. Um, but it's great to know that this film will have a life on physical media as well, which is a whole other element that I think is equally as important as the theatrical experience. And we could spend more
Hmm.
time talking about that too, Alex, but I know
Yeah.
you got to run, so I'll let you go. I'll let you go here, but thank you so much for making the time and just taking us a little bit deeper into not just what this journey was like for you, but then also too like what it just means for the industry at large and for independent cinema as a whole. Because I do believe that this was important. I do believe that this win, not so much even for the movie, but just for independent cinema as a whole, like this did mean something for a lot of people. You mentioned earlier young filmmakers being inspired. It's like I look at what Gintz did with Flow, and it's
Yeah.
like so many people now are picking up open source software and trying to do what
Hmm.
he did. So if, like you said, if it means that either people become cinephiles or become filmmakers and we start a whole new generation of storytellers, it's all worth it.
100%. You said it so well, Matt. I really appreciate it.
Nah, man, I really appreciate you. Thank you once again, and I hope our paths cross soon.
Sounds good. All right. Take
All
care.
right, take care.